Hello, friends and adventurers. So, real rules of world building? What is that all about? I do ever so hate saying to anybody who has great fun that they would be doing something wrong. So think of it like this, I'm not trying to say to anybody that they're doing anything wrong as much as I want to present an effective, great way of doing what they want to achieve so as to help them along and get them to achieve it. Even if I kind of like the way they were doing it before. Even if it's an innocent bit of fun. Even if we all have to do similar. So, welcome. I'm Em, and welcome to the DM table. So what normally happens when somebody's world building, they think of how they want a nice world, so they grab a paper and they start drawing a map. They then get maybe some advice from a friend or maybe on the internet. Then they do what the advice was, go and learn some geography, learn how to place things on a map. They draw rivers, they fill out the map. The city sits right at the river mouth. It's so perfectly placed, just like a real civilization would place it. It's so nice, it's so perfect. And you enjoy your world building, you enjoy your map, you enjoy your geography. You think this sort of country that works the fields would go very well here. This sort of country that forges iron and steel goes very well here. These are their mines. This is a volcano. This is a waterfall. And you're enjoying yourself, and then you bring it somewhere, and then people say that it has lack of ambition, even if you spend like a year developing it and have all the backstories of all the kings and queens and rulers and class systems and whatnot have you. And yet people say it has lack of ambition. What is up with that? Well, as pretty as this is, and as much as I love you for doing so, this is not how you would world build for really anything, except if you want exercise in geography, not necessarily even so much in social dynamics of medieval countries or whatever, because we can get into that even later. But how you make a setting, how you find a setting, how you world build is by figuring out what you need it for first, and then figuring out which is the most climactic point of what you need it for, and then finding the setting that fits perfectly with this the best as it possibly can fit, and accentuates it in the best possible ways, does what it can the most realistically to achieve the said thing that you wanted to have. It expands the best on the motives that you wanted to have. It just sits well with the story. And the story, well, what is the story if you don't have a setting, you might ask? The story comes before the setting in a way. It doesn't have to, technically. It's like if you have a fantastic concept, you can start already having a piece of the setting in the story. But the idea is that you think of something so superb for your story that now it needs a setting to work. You want something that's larger than everyday life here on Earth. Definitely, I mean, who would read about this place? And then you want to find the best possible place for it to have been playing out. And you want to then search out all the details about that place. That's how you world build. That's practically the whole concept. That's how you get the best results, because you sought results from the beginning. You did not just seek to build a cute medieval world or cute sci-fi world. You actually sought something supremely great and then found a place where it can reliably, plausibly, fittingly happen. That's how you world build. And once you have been doing so, then you can add the details, then you can exercise your geography, your history, or politics and whatnot to figure out what you want to figure out. But don't go overboard, because it still needs to be reworked backwards into the story every time. You want to be able to have everything connect back to the story. You want to have everything you need. You want it to make sense. You want to lack any plot holes. You want to keep the story at the center. You want to keep it the best. You want to keep it the most reliable, the most realistic, and yet the most fantastic, all at the same time. Because why wouldn't you when you have such huge ability at your fingertips to do whatever you want to fit the story properly before you need to be constrained by something to then, well, make a mistake, because no need to make a mistake as long as you know what you want and how you want to achieve it. And your story that you picked needs to be, well, your plot needs to be OP from the beginning. Players should be, or readers should be able to look at it from the concept and go and say, oh my, what a sight to behold. They want to experience it. They want immediately to have everything to do with it, because how haven't they heard something like this before? How haven't they experienced it yet? How haven't they played anything alike? How wonderful. You want that sort of reaction from the get-go, so think of something that inspires that highly, that just gets, and before you ask me how does something inspire so highly, it gets the things filled out that it needs to. It gets player or reader needs into it. It gives a concept that you want to experience. Think what you really, really loved back in the day. What inspired you. And well, if you are wondering about originality, don't, because you're gonna combine everything that you can possibly combine into something that is gonna be the most wonderful thing ever. If you're wondering about complexity, don't, because you're going to trim everything that you don't need, everything that is congesting stuff, and everything that you don't like that much, which is easy. People usually like only some segments of a thing, and here you can make something out of your own personal perfection until you're really, really happy with it. Not just happy in the lines of, well, it exists and it's good and it's in space and it's playing. No, you want it to have so much of everything that you always wanted that it's simply irresistible and you can't wait for it to move along every millimeter of the way. You just would love to do everything with it. You would love to do everything in it. You would love to have everybody play with it, read it, watch it. You want everything. That's when you have filled out what the story should be, and then just find a place that can support it. That's how you really world build. But of course, now that we have done this part, it's time to complicate. It's time to make some plot twists. It's time to see what is the problem. What are we working on? What are the main characters? What are the players? What are we working on? Whoever it is, what are the main protagonists working on to solve? Is it something personal, something global, little bit of both, whatever? What are we needing that is presenting us an obstacle? What do we need to remove, add? What do we need to achieve to feel better, even in this glorious world? What is the next step? What do we want to do next? What is the challenge? What is the invitation? What activity is offered? And yes, you need to sort of have an activity. Even if this is a book, you want something that everybody passionately wants to now get onto. They want to do it. They want to see it. They want to see it done. They want to see it performed. They want to see it researched. They want to see it experienced. They want to invest in it. They want to see it performed. It's like a love story. People read it because they want to see love prosper and blossom and whatnot. So you want to offer an activity. You want to offer a path. You want to offer a development. You want to offer something that we all want to get on as quickly as possible and as gloriously as possible, so that we see what's gonna happen when we do the glorious, wonderful thing. But there is something that is a challenge on this road to the wonderful, superb, glorious thing. So what is the challenge? What is a set of challenges? Which ones are secret challenges, which are known to the protagonist, which are known to the player, which ones are implicit, which ones are obvious, which ones are hidden, which ones are only implied, and which ones are lurking only in the author's mind and are not yet known to almost anybody, except obviously the author or the DM. So where do we get our substantial play from? Where do we get our sport from? Where do we get our back and forth from? And by back and forth, I don't mean something artificial where we have just trouble fluctuating. No, we want an actual buildable challenge. We want something that is getting constantly solved, constantly eroded by success, by proper work, by proper mindset, by sometimes wrong accidentally actions. It can get to be a deeper pond of trouble at a moment or two, but it gets once more pushed back, and then it sort of doesn't get bigger as much as protagonists notice that it was bigger all along, and then things are wider, and world is bigger, and things are bigger, and it escalates, but then we again have proper mindset, we again have proper ability, we again have some luck or some motivation or something that gives the protagonist ability to proceed, to have something great happen again and solve something again and get some rewards again. But not in a vacuum. They are scaling in comparison with the previous ones. They are getting more and more so. They are getting to the core of the matter. They are proceeding. Things are getting better, more interesting and complexer, and yet, more known and understood by the reader, watcher, player, right? We want progression, and we want progression not just for the character, we want progression for the whole story, for the whole world, for the whole situation, for the whole campaign. We wanted to push in the direction that was promised originally in a sensible, tasty manner that we like to consume. That's how we develop further what we need in the world, what kind of obstacles, what kind of complexities, what kind of necessities do we have that we need. And once we have them, then we do a once over yet again to see whether it's just as cool, just as legendary, just as wonderful as before, and does everything fit, and that we still don't have holes, and that we still have functioning, realistic, and fantastic thing that works and is enjoyable and is not too over pumped with the side content that doesn't add as much as it detracts from the main content, because you don't want to make it so that it loses its meaning, its center point, its wonderful original concept that gives the whole flight of fancy at the beginning, that gave us such a wow reaction. We wanted to preserve that wow reaction. We wanted to emphasize that reaction. We wanted to just give a little bit of depth, not just even a little bit, but we wanted to sort of present depth whilst not drowning people in it until they explore, until they search, until they read, until they play. And then it gives just as much lush depth as it promises without reducing the central concept of wonder and ambition to conquer the campaign. And do not forget, if you want your worlds and your characters to stay grounded enough, it's not that they need to be weak, it's not that they need to be silly or stupid or flawed as much as they need to have earned their place, as they need to fit balancedly with the world. How is that checked for and achieved? Well, it's one of the harder skills, but essentially you could oversimplify it by saying that there's two routes for a character. The Conan route and the Paul Atreides route. The Conan route is character starts, or world, or anything, starts as almost close to an average of their environment. Now, they might be talented, they might be treating their fellow human or whatnot better than an average person of the environment or something like that. They may have some likable traits. But they are still in trouble, and they still need to move, and they move stuff, and then through excruciating detail of many quests, in a way you get to see how much the character has earned, even though it has all been a washing machine of fate, circumstance, good, bad decisions, whatever, and the character is barely alive to say that they have done so, and they would almost never have need to brag about it because they feel the weight of their achievements is something that they have barely made it through, even with all their talent and with all their now accumulated might. And then it feels fitting towards the world because the character has been developing through challenges on their own and surviving and preserving and earning their new heights. But if you want something that's grand in the story by itself from the background, then you need to prepare as much background as you need, as in the Dune series, where there's so much respect showered onto the setting that, at least initially, that you get to feel that no matter how much a god emperor of mankind your character is, it's almost like it could have been any one of us if only the circumstances were that thick, that rich, that schemed, that, spoiler warning, engineered to happen, and yet accidents also occurred, and yet, well, you get the picture at this point. The world was so respected that the character can look up from within the world as opposed to looking down on us from some smug threshold of 12 angelic grandfathers and 12 demonic grandmothers or something like that Mary Sue characters frequently have and not explained whatsoever. So as long as the world is balancedly respected as much as the character, or the character is just as balancedly respected as the world, both will feel fitting. Anything else and it will feel either Mary Sue-ish or too oppressive, I guess, if the character is not respected but the world is unconquerable, unbeatable, unserviceable, unchangeable, too daunting, unwithstanding of any beauty or development. So that is how we check ourselves in time before we do something with the story we would later regret and cringe about. So these are the basic real rules of world building. Now I might not have as much of a language proficiency here, but I believe on my experience as a dungeon master that these will work for you wonderfully at any time, even if I have given you the shortest possible description of them. So, adventurer, if you thought this was unique, I hope you can spare me a click and maybe I could see you here next and perhaps even every week. I wish you luck on your adventures and to see you here again soon. Please write to me in the comments if you have anything at all that you would like to, because I would love to read it, I would love to respond, I would love to talk to you whenever you have the chance, opportunity, and desire to do so. So, until then, bye.